Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Riftbound 101. This is episode 16, and today is the review of all of the Spiritforged Body Domain cards, or the orange cards, as I'm probably going to refer to them throughout. Hopefully, we're all getting a ton of rest, ending the year on a high note, and maybe hitting up some Nexus nights if there are any in your area. Otherwise, welcome back. Um, so, Last week I was like, I'm gonna go home and I'm not gonna record anything during the week. That was wrong. I had the time to get back to my place and now take a look at some new events that have been popping up in China to assess the cards a bit more closely to what's starting to happen over in the CN context. So this is not fully like a blind review of these cards anymore, and that sometimes happens when people have like events ahead of time. So we use the info that we have. So I'm going to be talking about five distinct CN city challenges, um, and kind of the top eights for those five events. And then the way that I usually work through the set reviews is I talk about the design space that's open to the currently available legends. So this is the Origins and Proving Grounds legends that are in Body, and there's six of them. And then there's going to be four new ones that are going to join in Spiritforged, and what kind of new archetypes or play patterns do they allow, and are they likely to make any splash going forward? Always with the asterisk that like a lot of the discussion I'm going to be having is speculative, and even with the information that we have from the city challenges, um, the North American, European, and non-Chinese metas develop quite differently based on personal tastes. So take everything with a grain of salt. Every time I do one of these, I forget one of the previous words when I'm redoing the slides. We are going to be evaluating body cards, not mind cards. At this point, it's a meme. I should leave it in. And then to top everything off, I'm going to be talking about four or so of my personal favorite cards. So yeah, let's get cracking. So the city events that I took a look at are Beijing, Jinan, Shenyang, Suzhou, and Shenzhen, which account for roughly like 400 some players, which is like collectively about one third or half the size of a pretty big event. This is not like just your local Nexus night or a skirmish. They're big. There's like a lot of players. And I'm going to be talking about the top eight for each one of these very quickly, but I caution you to always also look at like top 16s or top 32s. So I'm going to be leaving the links to the Rift deck like logs for all of these events if you want to take a look at the deck lists. And the sort of overall takeaway that I would want to enforce here is it's a pretty wide field. There are 22 new legends in the top 40 decks. One of the recurring patterns is that Draven is seeing a lot of representation and has sort of eaten Annie's deck entirely, but Annie was never as popular in China as she was over here, so make of that what you will. And then the other 18 are some amalgam of Kaisa, Yi, Victor, older legends, but in some cases newer archetypes as well. If you've heard about like the 39 spell Victor, like that to me, I'm not counting it here as like a new legend, but it might as well be. So there's a lot of space for experimentation. There are a lot of like new decks. There are a lot of changes to old shells. So the cards are doing pretty well. First up is the Beijing one. So 3 Kaisas and 1 Yi in the top 8. But you get an Aurelia, you get 1 Annie, you get the Fiora, and you get the Draven. I did take a look at the Fiora. I think it's a pretty interesting deck list. And there are another like 2 Fioras in the top 16, which are relevant to the video for today. The second event, much more Draven, Annie, and Kaisa focused. So like 7 Fury decks out of the top 8, and 1 Master Yi, which is like pretty scary if you are not trying to, if you're trying to not buy like a Kaisa Survivor, but it showcases some difference in the events. This is Jinan, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and these are the smaller events, right? So these are like your 64 and your 84 events. And Shenyang um, starts to look pretty interesting to me. The event gets bigger, and all of a sudden you have one Kaisa, one Yi, one Annie, but then you have one Draven, one Darius, one Irelia, one Ezreal, and one MF Aurora. So, some pretty big differences already. And then when you get to Suzhou, you're a little bit back in that Draven shell, but now Azir and Rek'Sai also pop up. Oh yeah, Azir. For those that's waiting. And the last event in Shenzhen, also one Draven, one Ezreal in top two, Kaisa, Irelia, Rek'Sai, another Fiora, another Irelia, and a Kaisa. So the events look pretty different between each other. One interesting fact, or one interesting like takeaway from this is there's like no set in any of the top eights. Annie is like severely reduced, and I think although Draven is a very different deck, he is in on that red purple color pair. And of the Body Legends, the two that seem strongly represented are Yi and Fiora, which if you're a Sivir, hopeful might feel a bit weird, but it is what it is. So this is like pretty good news if you're a Fiora person, if you're like a Fiora fan, or if you've been looking forward to the deck, especially if you pre-ordered some of the starter decks, which for Fiora I think is like really good value if you manage to get one at MSRP or slightly over. The allotment is pretty good. So God, I left this from the Calm Legends thing. I swear I redo the slides every time, but I always forget stuff. So Origins and Proving Grounds Body Legends. The one that I would like to start off discussing with as a design space is Set, because Set has such a different playstyle to basically every other Body Legend, and really rewards the use and expending of buffs, right? So cards like Arena Bar basically only see play in Set decks, and I think he's had like a great deal of success with a very narrow strand of cards that are mostly his to play with. I just did a video about Lee Sin, and I think they have some overlap, but unfortunately Set has kind of just eaten his lunch. So Set has sort of had the monopoly on buff cards so far, and there are a couple that we're going to be talking about today, and those are measured somewhat with the expectation that they're going to be played in Set or in something like it. And then the other four cards, which is kind of a spoiler for the next episode I'm going to be doing, I would refer to as the Aurora 4. Less so Yi now, but especially like MF, Volibear, and Lee have sort of been relegated to Aurora play big boys decks. There are Lee decks that don't do that, and there's like the Green Lee, which I think is much more about stacking buffs, and Orange Lee is about like go wide buffs. But it's kind of undeniable that these colors have been driven by cards like Deadbloom Predator, Kiana, like very good mid-range beaters with Deflect, that either draw cards or channel runes, and then like enormous top-end bodies or engines like Aurora that let you just like play out infinite amounts of units. In the case of MF, you're a lot more on cards like Sabotage, and you've got like Bullet Time, but you're mostly like really, waiting to get to your Dead Blooms and your Mind Splitters and Aurora. Lee, we talked about. There are versions that effectively like slowly, as they get more powerful, they effectively become like mid to late game versions that play Dead Blooms and White Flame Protectors, or you're like trying to stack buffs on a couple of units in like the Protect the President playstyle. Volley theoretically has like a mid-range version where you're just playing mighty units to channel Runes Exhausted, but he also tends to go into that Aurora playstyle. Key differences are he plays Kadrigrin in Fury to draw more, and so there's like a potential dragon deck with Volley that I don't think is like quite there yet, but he does care more about my units, and there might be a couple that are useful for him. don't despair if you're a Volibear player. I think his ability is solid. He just needs like more cards to find a deck that isn't just like Aurora. And then Master Yi used to have like I think pretty fast versions that play things like Snapvine and were a lot more on small units like Willer of Water, which I think he still is now, but just like more as stopgaps to get to his big units. A lot of the versions that we've been seeing in like large person tournaments have been shying away from Aurora as people have started attacking more aggressively for it. He's one of the decks that gets to just play like a mid-range I play my 8-drop kind of play style and not like completely give everything up. But really all four of these are like big boy like body unit shells, which is a bit of a shame because they've kind of ended up playing in very similar ways. And I think within like the Aurora playstyle, yes, there are differences, but they really utilize like a specific slice of the body units, and it is what it is. um, Shout out to MF for at least giving ganking and having use of orange MF, which is I think a pretty good unit to do some trick plays on the board. So yeah. And the Yi decks that I'm seeing, which are like popping up in Spiritforged, are not really that different. They include things like Triforce that I'll talk about, like a 1 or 2 copies, but for the most part, they have remained largely the same. And so if you are a Yi player, you can make some additions to your deck without having to break the bank. But there is one card that I'll be talking about in today's set review, which I think like severely impacts the viability of Aurora in the coming set. So hold on to your hat. And it's not the Calm Legends, it is the Body Legends. You can tell I'm like both full of food and off of like climbing like stint. My blood sugar is crashing out a little bit. I've talked about the first two in previous videos, so I'm going to be talking about them a little bit more with new information on hand. Lucian, you're starting to see him pop up in top 16s. He's not like unplayably bad. He's in that like tier 2, tier 3 sort of space. He makes equipment give assault, so he adds like 1 power when you're on offense. And his champ spell, which we will be talking about again, I think is a big part of that. He likes to move units in with assault and then move them back, and force opponents to expend spells while he gets to like utilize cheap equipment for like good effect. He's solid. He's like one of the equipment user like legends that's coming up in Spiritforged. And I think I'm a bit hotter on him now than I was when I did the red episode a couple weeks back. But I'm still like I still think his primary issue is that he wants both equipments and units to get value, and he doesn't really help you with equip costs, which is one of the more prohibitive aspects of equip strategies in general. So he kind of like really values weapon master units, which often are not that good by themselves. So he like needs a lot of pieces to put together for everything to work out. But sometimes you're gonna be stuck against like a hard control deck like the 39 spell Victor, and it's gonna feel pretty bad to just get like you're gonna have to play 2 cards and they're gonna play 1 removal, and you're gonna feel pretty bad about it. So keep that in mind. Jax, Grandmaster at Arms, your sort of alternative to Lee Sin and Yi in orange green. He gets to attach detached equipment, or even attached equipment for less. So if it's on the ground, you pay 1 energy instead of 1 rune, which is a really big upgrade. If you're not playing like a preponderance of quick draw or weapon master cards. And he gets to attach like equipment that is already on a unit to another unit. Often you can like move equipment back, or save it from having like being knocked off of a unit on a battlefield that you expect you're going to lose or something. I'm a bit hotter on Jax, but his tournament results are not really showcasing that right now. I don't think I've seen him in like any top 16s this week at least. And or like I think the 21st was the city challenges. Uh, so I'm I'm a bit skeptical, and I'm actually afraid that Jax might just like have all of his shit go into Yi decks, which will utilize like the +2 defense as a static bonus to make units that are equipped a bit more hardy on defense, and accept that you're either playing like quick draw equipment or you're paying those rune costs to deal with stuff. Although I will say Jax's champion spell is one reason to play him, and looks pretty cool. Sevier, Battle Mistress, and I'm sure I'm like mispronouncing it. I know there's like a controversy with like the pronunciation of her name. When you recycle a rune, you may exhaust me to play a gold gear. So she loves having you play cards that recycle runes, which you're getting like a half discount on. You get back like a temporary rune, which then you can use to recycle for future cards. And whenever one or more enemy units die, you can ready her. Units will always be part of the game because you have to hold or conquer, so she will get value, and you will get gold on it off of her ability. The question is really like how good are her champion units, her spell, and how does she like compare to, for example, MF, or does like orange purple want to play the way that she does? I saw I think like one or two decks that like hit top 16s, but that was a bit back, and I haven't seen anything for like this last week, which is a bit worrisome. Um, I do think that she will get some like specific mid-range strats going that you normally wanted to see for MF, but there's a question whether or not she's the right person to play those orange cards, or whether it should be Fiora. And so, Fiora Grand Duelist. Whenever one of your units becomes mighty, you may exhaust me to channel one rune exhausted. So Fiora does for buffing units, not buff the actual like mechanic, but like moving units from 4 or less might to 5 might, what Kaisa does for like burn spells or draw spells. And this is like reasonably useful because sometimes you will have units that come into play and have Weapon Master that you can equip, and it will like move them into Mighty, and you'll channel back a rune. It effectively discounts quick draw equipment that can move units to plus to 5 or more. It also discounts spells that give plus might, which there is one to definitely talk about with this card. And so I think Fiora is, of the new legends, out of the gate, the one that seems the strongest, and she has access to like a fantastic champ spell. So she's only held back by kind of having garbage, or not garbage, but like not as exciting champion units. So keep that in mind. But I think she's got like a lot of tools to play with. And the fact that there were like 3 different Fiora deck lists in the Beijing top 16, and also another one in top 8 in Shenzhen, are like good indications that like she can go the distance. Whether or not she'll like stick around long term is a different discussion, but I think she's got like the makings of a really good legend that I'm excited to see do different things other than play Aurora. Which, to be fair, none of these really are on that game plan. Which, thank God. Okay, so with that in mind and the events in mind, I swear to God, it's time to talk about the Spiritforged cards. And like previous episodes, I don't grade these. I don't give them stars. I don't give them on 10 grades. There are a lot of other folks who are doing that. The Turn Sideways player folks, Challenger TCG folks. I'm interested in thinking through them and just seeing where they fit and whether or not I would want to play them. So keep that in mind. And again, if I make mistakes, please feel free to call them out. Luckily, it seems like that's lessening with a number of episodes, but sometimes you get stuff wrong, or when you're doing this like in vivo, you tend to lose track of stuff. So I go through commons, uncommons, rares, and epics, and then finally champ spells for the relevant or signature spells for the relevant legends. And this is color 4. So first up, we have Buru Captain. 3 might for 3 energy and 1 rune. When you play me, you may draw 1 or buff me. So it can theoretically be a 4 might for 3, or a 3 might and draw 1 for 3. The theoretical use for the buff is if you're playing Border Captain in set, and you need to buff it out of the gate. You don't really like this for any of the slow colors. Don't really like it for Fiora or for Sivir, and I don't think you would like this for Lucian either. The draw 1 is good, but as we've seen with cards like Clockwork Keeper, the 1 rune cost early, it's something you definitely feel. Playing 1 rune behind virtually for every turn of the game, this is likely like either a turn 1 second player play, or like you play this on turn 2 and then you're like half a rune back. It's pretty rough. I don't think Brew Captain is that good. I can see a case if we start playing Sealed, that having card draw is just like much more valuable, which, keep that in mind. But especially for the constructed landscape right now, I do not think that Brew Captain is a card that you should be running currently. So yeah. Card number 2 is Combat Chef, 5 might for 5 with Weapon Master. So you effectively need to play an equipment that's, this card will either be played on turn 2 as a second player or turn 3. It won't really get to do much until turn 3 or turn 4, at which point you will have a vanilla 5 with an equipped piece of gear on it. That piece of gear, if you're like on Lucian, will give +1 might. I just think this card is like simultaneously too slow and too small. And I'm kind of on the record that like vanilla Weapon Master cards that you have to like make space for your deck, which are effectively like you have to run this card to make other equipment good on it, is not really where I think it's at. It's not like unplayably bad. I just, for 5, I would want to do like anything else, almost certainly. So, it's just like an awkward size. 5 might though is like not inconsequential. Like you can see Doran's Blade from here. If you play like Doran's and you play this and you're at 7 might and you're like pushing for 8 into a Kaisa deck, if you're a Lucian, it's not like terrible, but it's just like a bit of a low tempo play. Up next, Dauntless Vanguard, 4 might for 4 energy and 1 rune. You can hear me talk about that rune cost a lot. You may play me to an occupied enemy battlefield. So this is like a baby Dead Bloom. It costs 1 rune less. Ironically, like Dead Bloom feels better because dropping a ginormous deflect body on a battlefield is pretty consequential. If you are like, let's say you're start player, you open on 2 runes, your opponent opens on 3, and then you go to 4, you're not going to have an occupied battlefield to play this. So this is actually like a turn 3 or a second player turn 2 card. If there were like orange decks that played the +1 channeled rune battlefield, I think Obelisk of Power, you might see some more of this. I think it's just like awkwardly costed. Unlike Combat Chef, like this is almost a card that I would want to have be like a 5 might for 5 energy. It kind of suffers from like its weird placement, and you can't really like equip it in base. So this is like a Fiora card that you drop onto an enemy unit and then buff it with like a spell, and you channel back the rune that you just paid to play this or the spell, and you kind of have to like, it's a pretty aggressive play. Like you have to tap out if you're at like on turn 3 and you play 4 and then you buff this with some, or you like play a plus might spell, you're often not going to have that much energy left. So I'm like willing to be pleasantly surprised by this, but it looks like a card that you would almost only tech against like purple to like snap back a battlefield that was taken by like a sneaky deckhand or an MF. Mediocre. Not terrible, but definitely not great. Dire Wing. 7 might for 7 energy. I enter ready if you control another dragon. This is like a volley card only, basically. the dragon deck, like the dragon tag, is getting increasingly attractive, and I think if there was like sufficient amount of them, this would not be unplayable. I think unfortunately, like when I see this, it just doesn't, you know, cut it in the current metagame. It also is in that weird zone where it's like too small for Aurora decks, but too big for any of the like equipment or trick decks. So like really only Volley can play this, because then it becomes like 7 energy, 7 might, channel 1 extra rune, and it can enter ready, and you're likely playing dragons because dragons are mostly in red and orange, or you're playing Herald of Scales where you can discount it for 2 and get like more out of it. I wouldn't be surprised if that is like a new version of Volley that takes off, but otherwise, I think this is like a card you stay away from almost certainly. Doran's Blade. So our first like pretty generic equipment. 2 might for 2 energy with a equip cost of 1 body rune. Listen, it's solid. This is big enough that I'm happy playing it. Weapon master units will equip this, and there are some good weapon master units. I think I've been like pretty, cold on things like Combat Chef, but this is like good. You will likely stick this onto a unit that has like 3 power. It'll become a 5, which is like magic number to warrant a double ping from Falling Star, but also be out of Void Seeker or Hextech Ray range. I'm like happy to play this as like a 2 or 3 of in Lucian decks. I would also be reasonably happy playing this in like as a 3 of in Fiora decks, where that 2 might will often refund itself, because you will be like pushing a unit over 5. So I like it. And the beauty of this having a generic might is that it is good in base. It's good on defense against like removal spells, which is really important. A lot of the like more conditional equipment struggles for not having like enough of a might buff. Laurent Bladekeeper, 3 might for 3 energy with ganking. Um, It's fine. It's got the ultimate like awkward dies to 1/2 of Falling Star clause stapled onto it, and it does have ganking, but you need to like ready it to make the ganking super relevant. Unlike Yellow Fiora, where you get like some deflect on top of it, it's a lot harder to like keep this in a battlefield and really force your opponent to trade into a unit that is much bigger. They'll often like have the tools to remove this. Um, it's like mediocre. I'm not a big fan. And like I suppose this maybe is like a tenth, like a if you're less on 2 drops and you start being more on 3 drops in like a set shell, then maybe the ganking is a bit more valued. But otherwise, I'm just not a big fan of this. Oh, here we go. Punch first. 1 energy, two body runes, and give a unit +5. This card is probably a 3 of in every might deck that isn't an Aurora deck forever, or for as long as it's legal. It's action speed, so you can play it during showdowns. It doesn't have like the awkward like I can only play this in on like my turn and then swing in. 5 is a lot to stomach, and it'll only be punished by like hard removal. The rune cost is certainly massive, but in the games where you will play this, it will probably like be enough to like break backs early on. And if you're paying it late, then you don't care. If you're in Fiora, it also refunds one of its own costs. I kind of like this. Just I don't see like a downside for this. It's crazy. And keeping 1 energy up as opposed to the amount of energy you had to keep up for like Primal Rage is so much easier. There are also decks that will probably just run this on top of Primal Rage. Punch First is like all star. I love this card. I think most people do. I think like most orange decks that you can see currently placing well in tournaments also play 3 or at least 2 of these. So yeah, keep an eye out, get your play set, play them. Sea Monkey. 2 might for 2 energy, which is like, you know, kind of the golden cost. You can pay 1 additional energy, and if you pay the additional cost, you buff it. I like this as like your 4th unit in a lot of decks that want 2 drops, largely because it will give you that flexibility. I just made light of like Laurent Bladekeeper having 3 might for 3. But if that's an optional cost that you have nothing else to do with your energy, then you're much likelier to play it. Uh, Also, if you're in Fiora, Sea Monkey being at 2 on turn 1 is good enough to like hold a battlefield, and then you can like punch first or do something to it. But often, if you're on 3 and you like equip a Doran's Blade to it, it will like make it mighty, and then like it'll refund your energy. Which, again, Laurent Bladekeeper does that and has ganking, but Laurent Bladekeeper needs you to have 3 energy, whereas Sea Monkey lets you play him on 2, and that is like really, really important. So I like Sea Monkey. It's not like an amazing card, but I would make space for this in decks that really want to play with that might total, especially if you're in Fiora. Veteran Poro. So this is the orange Poro, 2 might, 2 energy, and Weapon Master. So this is like a card that I see being most at home in Jax, where the Weapon Master tag is important. The problem is, Weapon Master on a 2-drop really only is relevant if you play it after its initial turn, at which point the 2 might becomes, or the 2 energy cost becomes like kind of a detriment. You usually want 2-drops like Sea Monkey that get better the other way around, not that you play for Weapon Master on like turn 2 or turn 3. So like Veteran Poro is maybe like its best play is like you're on turn 1 in like a Fiora deck, and you play, or no, not even, you're in a Jax deck, you play like Doran's Shield, and then you play Veteran Poro, and it has like 3 might, and you've expended 3, and you have like the shield left over if it trades away. I just don't think that's like a game plan that I'm super interested in. The only side scenario where I see Veteran Poro being very valued is if you're on like the Poro strat where you're running like 3 Veteran Poro, 3 Stalwart, 3 Lonely, and then your 3-drop is like 3 Poro Herder, and you're on weapons and you're in Jax. That's kind of like a meme deck, but maybe it's good enough to warrant playing. I'm just like not convinced at all. And the final common that we have is Yordle Explorer, 4 might for 4 energy. When you play a card with power cost 2 or more, draw 1. So this initially reads like a Sivir card because Sivir has a lot of the pay 2 energy to make runes, and like the orange Sivir itself, or I think it's the purple Sivir, like likes that clause, which in general, like I wouldn't be super hot on this card. However, I think that this card actually is going to get value because Punch First is so good that it will always have a couple of targets in every deck to feel good about. And then if you play any amount of like double rune cost cards, you're going to get like more value out of it. I don't think you want this as a 3-drop. 4 for 4 is like fine. It's in between some of those awkward costs. And if you ever trigger it once, you're reasonably happy. So like I think this is maybe a 2 of in like these smaller to the ground mid-range decks. And it being 4 also means that it will synergize well with Fiora because basically doing anything to it makes it mighty and will refund that cost, right? So let's say you're playing like Yordle Explorer, you push it into a battlefield, you punch first, it becomes like a 9 might, you refund one of those energy costs through Fiora, and you also draw a card. That's pretty sweet. I like Yordle Explorer. I don't think it's like spectacular, but I think 2 ofs in a lot of orange decks are going to feel pretty good. You just have to like really be on the double rune costs, and that's going to be like down to math. But yeah, like within Spiritforged, that's really like punch first, and so you would always want your ratio to be like less than punch first, but enough that you do see it. So 2, no more, no less. I think is where I'm at. Fey Dragon, 7 might for 7 energy and 1 rune. When you play me, buff up to 4 units, and when you spend a buff, play a gold gear token exhausted. Notably, it can buff itself, so it actually only needs 3 other units, and then it comes in as an 8 mana. This is like a set card for sure, because there you can spend the buffs reasonably well, and sometimes you'll spend them for his ability, but you can also spend them on cards like Monastery of Harana. And if you're in yellow-orange, you can also spend that buff for Cult of Glory. I think Fade Dragon has like 1 home. It's in set until we get like a dragon deck, because it does have the dragon tag. But it will make units big, and it will like reward you extra gold. So its energy cost is not that punitive. Like by default, it effectively costs like 7 energy and a half a rune. So yeah, I like this a lot as a top end for set lists. I leave it to Colin Kaiser to tell me exactly how many of these you want in a fade in like a set deck. But maybe someday it'll have like a home inside of a like mid-rangey dragon deck. It's pretty awkward that it for that kind of deck that it does share its energy cost with Direwing, which is like another 7-drop. I can't imagine you want like 6 7 drops, so I feel like you would just play this over it, which is another thing. Hex Drinker, 1 might and deflect for 2, and the equip cost is 1 body. So this is like side/downgrade from Doran's Blade. I think often that +1 might will feel like deflect because it'll like force your opponents to commit a bit more. I think deflect 1 really hammers like multicast decks, like decks that like to play things with multiple triggers, like Kaisa. And for that reason, it might be like a side tech in the decks that want to play Doran's Blades, and sometimes you want deflect 1. I think having this onto like having this on like mid-sized bodies is going to be somewhat useful if we're like in a spell meta that targets your own units. Notably, like the Victor that's coming up, like really might not like playing against this, or it'll force him to target units at inopportune windows to like not burn his runes. I feel like most of the time I would just prefer Doran's Blade, but it's not like impossible that Hex Drinker takes it in the end. They're kind of like meta dependent choices, I think. Next up we have Jawfish or Yawfish for 6 might, 7 energy, 2 runes, and I cost 2 less for your mighty units. So this card's like pretty bad, right? It can accelerate. So you're gonna tell me, okay, I can accelerate a 8 mana and 3 runes for 6. If you have 1 mighty unit, it comes in accelerated at 6 and 3 runes. I think the rune cost is just like too much. It doesn't draw, it doesn't have like crazy high power. It's really like a volley card, but even there, I'm not sure I like it that much. It really is like a volley card. Like you just want to play mighty units to play this cheap. But like early on, playing this early, the body runes will hurt you a lot. And playing this late, a 6 body is just too small. It's like an awkward card on both ends of the stick. I I don't think I would like ever play this. As much as I think Yawfish in Legends of Runeterra was an absolute beating, I think this card's a little bit, not good. And it doesn't have like interesting tags right now. Like it's not like it's a dragon or something where you can say, well, at least it synergizes with the rest of the dragon deck. Um, Not it. And speaking of terrible cards, Petrosite Monument. 2 energy for a gear. It has temporary, so you have to kill it at the start of your next phase, next beginning phase. So you effectively play it. It gives your friendly units deflect for that turn. And that's it. Hell no. I think this is like a dead slot in your deck. It may be the worst card in this set. If there's ever a reason to play temporary gear, maybe it will have a purpose. But otherwise, I think this card is like absolutely terrible. every time you would want to play this, play Hex Drinkers instead. That's really it. Wow, like absolutely a dead card in your packs. And then it's time. I'm waiting. Like as a former Runeterra player, Rune Runner, you're back. 5 might for 6 energy, no rune cost. I can't be chosen by spells, enemy spells, and abilities. You can target it with yours, and it can die to things like Call the Weak. But otherwise, you cannot do anything to this. I think in a meta that is like on-board power focus, like if things like Cleaves and Blood Rushes dominate, this thing is a 5 might for 6 energy. I think if you're against Kaisa, this thing looks like a living nightmare. It effectively just like shuts off a wide range of cards, and so its grade would depend on which decks are at the top. But I'm seeing a lot of Kaisa still in the meta going into the next set. The question is, this is already at 5 might. So if you're playing this in something like Fiora, it doesn't trigger Fiora. In volley, I think you would just play this straight up. Like 5 energy cannot be targeted by enemies, and it just like ramps you by 1. This is where I want like my mid-range volley deck to go. It can wear buffs really well because they're a lot harder to interact with. And then you're like really getting into some nasty stuff where like it can't be targeted. You can like save this with set. You can call to glory it if it's got a buff. You can like punch first. It can get huge. This card is like crazy basically everywhere except for Aurora decks. And I think, like, full disclosure, I'm a green player in Magic, so this is like the kind of cards that I like seeing are cards that like make it harder for my opponent to interact with me. As much as I think a lot of other players like cards that are super interactive, this card just tells your opponent you can't like do anything to me directly. If Spell Victor gets bigger, I think this card is like a necessary roadblock that they have to Call the Weak or King's Edict to kill, and it is like super hard for them to do that. I think there is probably a Sivir or MF deck where you are using things like Soul Gorgers and Harrowings to just like bring back Ruin Runners that you can buff. This card is like good enough to build around. I really, really like this. If you're in a meta that just plays bigger bodies, maybe it's insufficient. The question is really for Fiora. And I think I would not play this in Fiora, but I would sideboard it for like very heavy control matchups where I would accept that like I'm not getting a rune back for doing anything to this, but it makes it like a lot harder for opponents to like deal with it. Crazy, crazy stuff. Show of Strength is up next. 2 energy, 1 body rune, reaction speed. You draw 1 for each of your mighty units. So on the face of it, this needs 2 mighty units to be better than Confront. And it costs you like an energy, which I actually can't remember if Confront does. Does Confront? Does Confront do that? It does not. So Confront is action instead of reaction speed, which is notable. But otherwise, it feels like worse. This card is like actually pretty hard to play early. And again, this reads like volley tech. So the question is like, do you play this in volley? And the answer is probably, because you've played enough mighty units to ramp up, and so like the 1 rune is not terrible. This thing is like Cadragon spell. But if you're sitting on like two mighty units, you're reasonably happy to play this. If you're sitting on 3, you're like super happy. The question is, what happens when you play this and you have no units? So like its floor is awful because it's nothing, but you can use it as a reaction to like a removal spell, so you can mitigate that like end state. Listen, I don't like this card because it feels like sometimes it'll just be dead in your hand, which is awful. Like if you're on top decks and you're volley and you draw Confront, you can like at least draw into another unit. whereas this card is just like fully dead. And if you're on multiple mighty units, you're like drawing 3 cards. It's crazy. So like when this card feels good, it's gonna feel amazing, and when it feels bad, you're gonna like hate it. I think it's only playable in Volibear and like nowhere else. But you know, Ruin Runner's right next to it, and like there's a clear association of like play your mighty units that are lean and hard to interact, then play this. Because it can like draw dead, I don't ever think you want more than 2 of these in your deck. Um, so it'll need some experimentation. I'm just like not sold on this. It looks too risky to me. Strike down. 3 energy, 1 rune. Choose an equip-friendly unit. It deals damage equal to its might to an enemy unit, which can hit base, and then you detach an equipment from it. It's not it. I think this card is like in the stock shell for Leona, for Fiora, and I think like they really want you to like equip a unit, and then de-equip it, so you can then like re-equip the unit and make it mighty again next turn. The energy cost is pretty intensive. It's one-sided removal, which will sometimes matter. And you can like make use of things like Ruin Runner or like your Lucians or stuff like that that like will feel pretty good. But I just feel like it's more expensive than Challenge, and the rune cost is going to feel pretty bad early on. Like that 1 extra energy is really like a 50% increase on the 2 energy that Challenge has. And you, unlike Challenge, which really only needs 1 unit, this needs a unit and an equipment, and they need to be equipped. And then you de-equip it, and if you're not on Fiora, it's going to cost you like additional energy. This is like a Fiora and Jax card. Maybe it's more of a Jax card than it is a Fiora card. I just do not like this. And maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like this is going to just cost you too much. Warmog's Armor. 1 might, 1 energy. When I conquer, buff me, and it's got an equip of 1. Nah. Again, this is like Fiora or Set tech. I think I would just like play. I would just play Dorans for 2. Effectively, it's like conditional Dorans that you can then spend the buffs. I just don't like it that much, unfortunately. And then my boy. So for people who do not know this, I was an Akshan player for an inordinate amount of time in the previous version of this game. 4 might for 4 energy. He has Weapon Master, which is just on there. And you can pay an additional 2 runes, and when you play him, if you paid the cost, you get to take an enemy gear, move it to base. You control it until he leaves the board, and if it's an equipment, you attach it to him. Now, evidently, you can steal your Warmogs, you can steal your Doran's Blades, you can steal your Triforces, but you can steal Auroras. And I think in the decks that are not like interactive enough to take it away from him, like yes, you are going to get 1 tick of Aurora off, but you can just sit him in base, and if people do not have the right tools to get him out, it will be brutal to get your gear back. He effectively forces 2-for-1s or trades constantly, and he can also equip gear that you have lying around when he comes in. So, for example, you're playing Fiora, you have a Doran's Blade, you play him, you pay the additional 2, you equip the Doran's Blade to him, he's 6, you get an Aurora, your turn ends, you get a tick of Aurora. It's your opponent's turn. They now have like him at 6 and whatever unit you just unloaded on top of that, which can be like a Rune Runner or something mid-sized, and they have to have gear removal to get it back. I think this card, if orange is any amount of like meta viable, is going to make Aurora's life absolutely miserable. You can also steal Hook, and Hook decks generally are going to be like severely punished by that happening to them. I think like most Darius Hook decks can't like really interact all that well with him currently. Akshan just looks crazy to me. He looks maybe like one of the best 4-drops that we've had in the game, and he doesn't even cost energy by himself. So worst case scenario, if your opponent has no gear, you're playing a 4-cost, 4-might Weapon Master, and he is already at like a might that is like pretty good for in terms of like he doesn't die to Hex Tech, he doesn't die to like 1 Ping of Falling Star, And if you're in Fiora and you just like equip something that's lying around to him, he also like moves up to 5 and channels an additional rune. I think he is like playable in almost every small body or mid-ranged orange deck, but I think he's like particularly strong in Fiora, and I think he's probably like the orange tech needed to also fight gear decks, which are going to become prevalent. Sometimes you can also just steal a gold token, and that's going to be enough, or like a scrap heap or a Poro Snacks or some other stuff that's lying around. Awesome. Sick. Fiora Peerless. So 3 might, 3 energy, 1 rune. When I attack or defend one-on-one, double my might this combat. So if, like me, you read this the first time and you were like, wow, this is like amazing in E, she's just going to become like a 10 might unit. Hold your horses. She has to attack battlefields that are held by only 1 unit and also only be attacked by 1 unit. So it's not that she's alone, it's that both you and your opponent are alone. I think this card is like pretty unplayably bad. It also costs 1 energy and doesn't like do much on its own. You play this, it like gets blasted by pretty much everything. It this card feels like really ill advised. I would just play like original Yellow Fiora like every time over this. Unfortunately, yeah, not it. Really not a fan. Here to help. So this card has been like pretty on the radar, I think, for people wanting to break it. 2 energy, 1 rune. You can hide it for a rune and then action or reaction if it's hidden. You may play a unit from your hand to a battlefield you control, reducing its cost by 3. So you can't play it on something that you're attacking. You need to control it. So it's like a defensive card. Obviously, like the thing that everybody was talking about with this was like Bryn Here Thunder Song, where you can like react play it like early and break some math and force your opponents to not be able to play spells, but then that goes on the stack. I think currently I would not play this card. There's probably like a meme deck to do with this, and it's the kind of card that I could see breaking the game at some point in the future if like hiding it for 1 or for like 0 and the energy allows you to trick out like a 7 might unit on turn 2 that is like truly brutal. Its home is probably in like orange purple, where you can like if you're second player or you're on a obelisk of power, you can play like a sneaky deckhand to an open battlefield, hide this, and then like jam another unit to hold it, or like play a really big unit. But otherwise, I think this is not like doing much currently. Also, like hidden, support in orange is not really like a thing right now. Kato the Arm, 3 might, 4 energy, and 1 body rune. He has deflect, and whenever he moves to a battlefield, give a friendly unit's my keyword and might equal to my might. So when he attacks, he gets like deflect 2 and 6 power, which is not inconsequential, and he's pretty hard to target profitably. He's a bit small. And so I think he will likely see play in decks like Lucian or in Fiora. Equipping stuff to him that gives him keywords allows you to buff him or buff another unit. He's fine, but not crazy, and I don't think I would currently play him because of the preponderance of like board buffs that like just go around his deflect. But he's okay. And he will become only more busted as like more stuff is printed that allows him to get specific keywords. Duplicating keywords cannot be like inherently terrible. And he's overcosted for sure, but sometimes that will not like be enough to deter you from playing him. What's the dream case? You're on turn 2, you play him open. You hope your opponent doesn't do anything to him, and then on turn 3 you attack. And if you're holding buffs, you can like pre-buff him and buff something else and send each unit to a battlefield. That's okay. He's like, okay. Okay, second Lucian. I was like notoriously not super hot on Red Lucian, but 3 might, 3 energy, no rune cost. He is a weapon master, and the first time he conquers each turn, he readies. So the thing that you're gonna do with him is basically like play Doran's Blade, play him, send him to a battlefield, and then ready him. His champ spell lets you basically shoot him into a battlefield, readied, and then it pulls him back, and then he's also readied again, so he can go again. He like basically goes into battlefields and comes back out like pretty fast. 3 might is really good also with Fiora because evidently you Doran's Blade him, you punch first, he gets to go up to 5 might and channel the rune, and he gets like pseudo like retreat, not retreat, like flash every turn. I think Orange Lucian or Merciless is pretty solid. Like especially when you're thinking of like I want 3 drops, I want Akshans, I want Kianas, I want Fioras. Does he have a space in that deck? I think he absolutely does. Um, is he good in his own deck? He's probably like the Lucian of choice over Red Lucian, I think, and he'll let you like push in an awful lot. But I think he gets more value in Fiora than he does in his own deck, even is my sense. And I will say, like playing him if you're on like Longblade or Skyfall of Arion or things like that, he can like get big enough because of the assault that is on the weapons in his own deck, and then like really take some battlefields and then pull back, and it can get like pretty dicey for your opponent. The lack of deflect is like the only thing that's a bit scary for me with him. But for example, like Hex Drinker is pretty solid on him in his own deck. So I like him. He's not like as earth shattering as Akshan is, but you're happy playing him. And the fact that he doesn't have an energy cost, like a rune cost, is pretty solid. Marching orders. 3 energy, action. You can repeat again for another 3 energy. You choose a friendly unit anywhere and an enemy at the battlefield. They deal damage equal to mites to each other. It doesn't hit enemies in base like challenge, and your unit will not heal between each fight because there is no showdown that is ending between the 2 ticks of this. So you need like very big units to fight 2 things. This is like a volley card or maybe a Yi card. I just struggle seeing this like take over challenge for those decks. I might be wrong, but this just doesn't look super exciting to me. And there might be a time when there is like enough fuel to need 3 marching orders and 3 challenges. So far, I'm not like super excited about this. Trinity Force, another one that's been like the subject of a lot of speculation. 2 might, 4 energy, 1 equip. When I hold, score 1 point. Yeah, listen, you're gonna play this. Weapon masters get to equip this for free, and we've seen Yone's right next to this. Akshan has weapon master, and Lucian has weapon master. It's 2. You like this in Fiora. You like this in Jax. You like a one of maybe in Yi where you can set this on like a really big unit where you are gonna hold, and sometimes that 1 point will be sufficient to like end a game. If this is combined with Skyfall of Arion, which is really like your, magical wish, like I get to equip this and Skyfall of Arion and attack, and I double score a point, this can actually like win you the game because the ordering of the point score is you'd get the Conquer, which will give you the point, and then it will trigger the card because it will trigger on Conquer. You will then get the second point, and you will win from 6 to 8. It's pretty hard to make that happen, but this card is threatening enough that people will like be scared of it constantly. And orange is the color that likes holding currently. Yeah, you're gonna play this. The question is how many of these do you want? And I think probably like 1 in most decks, 2 in like Fiora or like Lucian, but maybe 3. I like this quite a lot, and I think like things that break score point like tempo are really important. We've talked a lot about like 5 or like the difference between like 6 points and 5 points. I think like double conquering with this and your opponent can't break your hold is pretty brutal because you're gonna win. Like let's say you double conquer from like 4, not even actually. You double conquer from 1, you go to 3. No, 4, 6. You'd have to like double conquer. You're at 3, you double conquer to 5, and then you hold 2 plus this 1. That's like really scary for decks that need to get their grand under them. I need to see like more decks, but this card looks like it's got the goods for sure. And there are a couple of decks that can just like get away with running one of these, and your opponent will be terrified. If they ever see you play it, they're gonna have to play around it for the rest of the game, or you can like sneak a win. It has a similar function to like knowing that your opponent has time warp, even if your opponent can never like actually get time warp going. Its win scenarios are a bit more narrow than time warp, to be sure. Yone Blade Master. 5 might, 5 energy, 1 rune. It has Weapon Master. When I conquer an open battlefield, deal damage equal to my might to an enemy unit in base. I would like clap, but I don't want to blow your eardrums out. I love this card. It is less insane than Akshan, and it has a cost upfront. However, one of the two of the premier decks right now that are like really putting up numbers are Kaisa and Annie, decks that use Flash, that will use fighter flights on their own units sometimes, and also this like super punishes Reaver's Row, or effectively shuts down Reaver's Row, and makes it like a dead battlefield for your opponent. Often, if your opponent's trying to get stuff happening in base, and you get to like play Yone and you like push him into a battlefield, it's pretty brutal because you can like get the battlefield and also kill their tempo. What decks want Yone? So the Aurora decks don't, but I do think that there is a Yi battle, like a Yi lower to the ground version that likes him. Sivir probably likes him. I certainly set like Yone Showstopper is gonna feel pretty intense. And Lucian for sure. Like you can relentless assault him into a battlefield, pull him back. Your opponent loses a point, loses a unit, and then is like, how do I target this guy? He's already a 5 might without weapons. If he's holding like a Trinity Force or anything else, he gets like really crazy. If you are in purple orange and you give him ganking and you send him to a second battlefield that's open, you can like completely destroy your opponent's base. This card has so many applications. He's a bit like expensive to get going, but there will just be games when he will lock your opponent out, and there's not much they're going to be able to do about it. Yeah, he's awesome. I love him. And then we move into the epics. Ancient Henge is up first. Gear, 2 energy, 1 power reaction. You can pay any amount of energy to add that many runes. I I need to like spend weeks figuring out how good this card is. Obviously, like the first card that comes to mind is Bullet Time, where end game this makes Bullet Time not consume runes. But it also like shortcuts rune costs for the rest of the game if you're on like very heavy rune strategies. There's also like a Sivir card where like the double energy is felt much less keenly, but then your cards start costing a lot more, or like the rune cost is felt less keenly, but you start paying more energy. This is the kind of card that will like eventually lead to some degenerate combo that I can't see right now. I don't think I like it for the current decks that are available, but it will do some stuff that is certainly useful. And at worst, you can like have one of these and you can use it to pay for equip costs with energy, which is like like bootleg jacks, but maybe that'll be enough sometimes. And it also hits spells, so sometimes the spells also will be worth it. Um, I think I like the blue version that like trades energy for like massive, like it trades runes for like massive energy bursts that allow you to play over. This card lets you like fuel expensive cards a bit better. But I'm just not sure right now. Like I don't see the application for it all that much except for MF. And the question is like, do I care that much in an MF deck? Like, am I casting like 3 back-to-back bullet times? Maybe one there, and that's kind of it. Also, feels pretty bad if you play this and Akshan steals it from you. So just keep that in mind. Bone Shiver. 3 energy for 2 might. When I conquer, channel 1 rune exhausted, and it has a pretty steep energy cost to equip. Notably, if you do play Weapon Masters, you still have to pay 1 because it will cover the rune, but not the generic energy cost. But this is good. Like conquering is something that you're going to be doing a fair amount of. It doesn't cost energy to play, and you can like put it onto a lot of units that will conquer and ramp you energy. I like this quite a bit. It's moderately more expensive than Doran's Blade, but it will like ramp you, which is not inconsequential. And Jax gets to equip this without paying the cost. So obviously you love this in Jax the most, but you probably like this to a certain degree in a lot of orange decks. I also think one of the shadow like keeps for this deck is Set, because Set is using a lot of the runes constantly, so this allows a bit more economy and like breathing room, and the +2 is valued there as well. So solid. Jax Unrelenting. So this is Orange Jax, 3 might, 4 energy, 1 body. He's a weapon master. Whenever you attach an equipment to me, pay 1 to draw. So he is like at the heart of a lot of like equip a bunch of stuff to me and like get value out of it. I need to like see the Green Jax again. So Green Jax was deflect, and each equipment in your hand has quick draw and reaction. Well, it gives reaction, so because of quick draw keyword. So the question is like, how much do you prefer Orange Jax to Green Jax? And the answer is moderately. I think if you're like playing on curve and you don't have the energy, it's gonna feel pretty awful. But sometimes you'll just draw like 3 cards, and then it'll feel great. I feel like I personally prefer Green Jacks because quick draw on all your equipment and also deflect is a much more attractive combination for something that wears equipment. But it's not impossible that you're just going to play both of them in like a Jax deck. And outside of a Jax deck, you might like this in like Fiora for the same reasons that you like a lot of the 3 and 4s, because you can like equipment. Like this guy compared to like Laurent Bladekeeper is like, I cost 1 more in an energy, but I can like make you draw stuff. And by default, if you have like a Doran's Blade, he'll just like he can draw you 1 if you have the energy open. So consider him like a 5 cost 3 drop. He's medium. I like him less than Green Jacks, and I'm not sure I would play him over some of the like less specific weapon stuff in like Severe. Maybe you value the card draw enough in Lucian that he'll have like a home there. And yeah, Fiora is the same thing. Like he gets some use there, but I feel like I would just prefer playing like like Set Brawler or like like the OG Fiora and stuff like that. And then the last card in our epics, Severe Ambitious, 7 might for 6 energy and 3 runes, which is just brutal. Deflect 2 is really high, and when I conquer after an attack, if you assign 5 or more excess damage to enemy units, you may deal that much to an enemy unit anywhere. Just play Yone. It's pretty brutal. I think it's just too expensive. Three runes, like 1 rune at 6, you're like, okay, I'm behind half a turn. Going back like 1 turn and a half is awful. Yellow is like running in the meta now, so like this just gets absolutely stomped by like Call the Weak or King's Edict or stuff like that. Deflect 2 is like really good, don't get me wrong, and 7 is a high might cost. But to assign the 5 or more excess damage, you need to like commit other cards to it, which is inherently a risky game plan. And you're going to be playing this, and you're going to go down from like, if you're playing this with like 8, so you can have a protection spell open, you go down from like 8 to 5 runes, and then you go back to 7. You're still like behind where you were, and your opponent's like getting ahead of you. Is the other, this is like preempting the severe like episode. I need to like see this. Accelerate if you've spent 2 have ganking. I think you just play like purple Sivir in the champ zone for like the accelerate threat over this. This just feels like brutal. The cost just feels too high, unfortunately. Okay, and then up last is the champion spells. So we talked about Relentless Pursuit when we were looking at red cards, but we can talk about it again. Action speed, 2 energy, either 1 or red, 1 orange or red rune. You move a friendly unit, you can attach an equipment from sim controller, and that unit has when I conquer it, you may move me to my base. So if you're moving this in like non-risky ways, or like you can ensure the conquer, this effectively reads like move and move back, and you get a free point. I think this card is made even more exciting by the presence of a card like Yone in Lucian decks. I think Relentless Pursuit is evidently like a 2 or 3 of in every Lucian deck. Play it, enjoy it. It's going to be one of your favorite cards in that deck, and it's going to be one of your opponent's most hated cards for sure. Counter-Strike, we talked about as well when we were doing the Calm episode. So reaction speed, you choose a unit, and the next time that it would take 1 instance of damage, you prevent it, and you draw 1. Functional counter magic for like single target like damage spells, but also for combat. So it allows you to like kind of like pseudo stun enemy units and draw. I really like Counter-Strike. Again, if you're in Jax, you probably play like 2 or 3 of these. The draw one makes it like inherently very like cool. It replaces itself. It only costs 1 rune. It's good late. It's good early. Yeah, you're kind of happy all the time with that. And then the new ones that are a bit more exciting because we haven't seen these yet are On the Hunt, which is 1 energy and 2 runes to ready all your units. So this is confront for units that are already on the board. You pay double runes. You do not play this early. You can like play this with gank units, and effectively like you send your units into a battlefield. You On the Hunt. You go gank in the other place. Like the nightmare scenario with this is like, Orange Sivir gets to like hit 2 battlefields at like 5 excess damage twice and just destroy their board. If you hit the first battlefield with Orange Sivir, it can deal 5 damage to, or like it can deal the excess damage to. It's not the excess damage. I need to stop saying that. Yeah, no, it is the excess damage. So 5 or more damage to the second battlefield, and you play On the Hunt, and you ready your units, and you go to that other battlefield if you have ganking, and then you can like hit base again. If you can give ganking in different ways, you can also like use Yone twice. I feel like this is a card I'm less happy to play than Relentless Pursuit, and is often going to be used in some like very overcommittal strategies. This makes Sivir look like way less good to me. Yeah, I'm not a big fan, unfortunately. That's kind of like the Noxian Guillotine of spells, where it's like maybe 1 in like a very specific sideboard, but otherwise no. And then Riposte, 2 energy and 2 runes. Don't come for me. I live in a French-speaking province. Riposte is actually correct, but anyways. 2 energy, 2 runes, reaction speed. You choose a friendly unit and a spell. You counter that spell, and you give your unit, or the unit that you're using, plus might equal to that spell's energy cost this turn. Hell yeah. 2 of in most Fiora decks, maybe 3. Obviously, you use this to like punish removal spells. So like an opponent Void Seekers you play this, you get like +4. They don't get the spell. This also can counter. Like you need a unit on board, which is not nothing, but you are in colors that have big beefy units. You're playing your Akshans. You're playing your Yones, you're playing your Yellow Fioras, you're playing like Kiana's perhaps, and you just want the plus buff, that's going to be like its use 90% of the time. But sometimes this card will be Mystic Reversal level bullshit, and it will take your opponent's Time Warp out of the game. It won't like steal it, but when your opponent commits 10 energy and 4 runes to a spell and they get riposted, it's going to feel pretty brutal. This like shuts down Possession, it shuts down Acathian Rain, it shuts down Azir's Arise, it shuts down Hostile Takeover. This card is really, really good. One of the premier reasons to play Fiora, and often it'll pay half of its energy cost because it'll push a 4 might unit up above mighty. So you'll be happy to like play this. The fact that like the starter deck for Fiora has copies of Riposte is like really, really important. And if you are looking to play Fiora, I would almost tell you like grab 2 decks and just start from there, and you'll have like a pretty good base. You're getting some booster. You're getting like a booster in those starter decks as well. I really really like this card. Of like the new body champions, I like that 2 of them have functional counter magics, but I think I like Riposte more than I like Jax's spell for her. Um, you would love the card draw, but I think you can have enough of it. And crucially, this is a 2 energy spell for the Yordle, so it is another way to trigger it. So I think if you're in Fiora and you've got like 3 Ripostes and 3 Punch First, you got like your 2 Yordles. You're also gonna draw off of this. Chef's Kiss, great card. I'm gonna talk about it again when we're doing the yellow review to give it like a second once over from that side. But I just really like this card. And yeah, it retains its annoying factor of strength from Legends of Runeterra. So just to go back to like the finale of this, because you've been here for a while and I need to vacate the premises. Personal favorites. So orange is a strange color in that I don't like a lot of the cards, or I think I'm like, unenthused by a lot of them if they're not like terrible. But the ones that I do like, I really like. So surprising no one, Ruin Runner I think is going to be the core of a lot of strategies. I really like it. Figure out if it's in Fiora or not, but otherwise I think this card is really annoying to a lot of players. And yes, it will go up in value the more that like red, purple, and blue are on the take, and it'll be, or yellow as well, and it'll be less beloved or less useful if like green and orange are up. But god damn, I just really love that card text. Akshan, 1 of 1 irreplicable card. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this starts going up in price a lot. Fantastic card. I am also pretty sure that this is in the Fiora deck. One starter deck list. Okay, it's not in the starter deck, but the starter deck contains Yone, 2 orange Lucian, Riposte, Shears, which I also like a lot as a card. Orange Fiora here, like not super happy about, but yellow Fiora is better, I think. So yeah, like the Yone being in this is pretty interesting. Yeah, so Akshan, get your copies. This card's going to go up in value. If orange is any good, it's in the deck. Even if orange is not good, it's in the deck. Enjoy playing this. It's also going to produce some really weird mirrors where you're going to steal your opponent's equipment and they're going to steal it back. Okay, it is what it is. Yone, great linchpin card. Orange, red, yellow, orange. Going to love this. Jax might also love this. It gives orange and green access to like hitting things in base, which is pretty rare. Slightly expensive, but at 5 energy, the 1 rune doesn't like make me that annoyed, and the Weapon Master covers a little bit of that. Wowie, what a great card. And then Riposte, I just talked about it a lot. One of the premier reasons to play Fiora, I think, and something super exciting. And sort of the takeaway from orange out of these 4 colors that I've covered right now is, thank God, most of the cards seem to be moving away from Aurora. Like there are no targets that I like for Aurora decks, which means that Aurora's EV is going to stay fairly locked to what it is now, but there are many answers coming to it. And I think I put a picture of Orange Fiora. If she ends up being any amount of playable, I think that's going to be cool. If there are like very Voltron-y, like stand with 1 unit on a battlefield stuff, there's going to be like some cool stuff you can do with her. Rune Runner is great. I'm just like excited for Orange to do anything else than Aurora. And you know, if you thought you were going crazy when I covered Origins Legends, I didn't even cover Garen, because Garen is even more locked into that Aurora playstyle. I'm just like annoyed that like 4 or 5 legends can only play through that way like reasonably competitively. So even if all of these legends do not end up being competitive, I'm happy that they're all different from a design space standpoint. And I do think that Fiora is going to have a home in the meta. And I think that Lucian as well, although a bit more iffy. The other 2 left open to interpretation. But I'm a big fan of what Orange is doing in this set, for sure. that's it for this episode. On Wednesday, which is going to be the 31st, New Year's, I'm going to do an In Focus episode. However, unlike the In Focus episodes I have done up to now, I will do an In Focus episode about Aurora. And I think this is a way for me to cover Garen and Volibear and MF to a certain extent, because I feel like they are just hard locked to one archetype. And I want to talk about what happens when a card like this buttresses like an entire color. I am not a fan of Aurora. I think it has produced good tournament decks, but I'm eager to see it kind of get hammered. And its cost, like its price, has been going down and down, so obviously that's already happening. But yeah, so tune in for that. Not sure if I'm not doing like another Volibear video. Like I'm still figuring that out, but I really felt like I needed to talk about this card because it is like really puppeteering a bunch of different legends in its gameplay. So that's it. If you are seeing this before New Year's, Happy New Year's. I hope you have a great one. And otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye.